Hello, everyone. It looks like I'm live. Will you just confirm for me in the comments by just telling me if you can hear properly and if you can see me, and then we will get started. Let me open my notes so long. You can just type in the live chat. I know there's a bit of a delay, and just let me know if you can see, then we'll start discussing. And you will also be able to watch this as a video after the live recording, so you can go back and see the information again. Let's see if I've got comments. Nothing yet. I'm just going to check on my UNISA to make sure that there are no comments that side. Right, so I hope this is working because I'm not receiving comments at the moment, but I will keep checking. But I'll just get started then. So I want to give you guys a bit of information about how we will be proceeding with the actual FI portfolio. And I also want to talk to you a bit about the purpose of the activities, what the aim is, and how they will be evaluated in the final portfolio. I hope you are enjoying the activities so far. I hope that you're coping with the pace. I know that we are doing them quite quickly. That is just because, we have to try and get this FI concession process done before registration closes for the first semester, for the ENG 1501 year module. So that if students fail the FI concession, can still have a chance to register for the module, but hopefully that will not be the case with any of you guys. I really am trying to help you as much as possible so that all of you can pass this portfolio and can get your degrees. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the process of the FI concession activities and why they're there. I have noticed in some of the comments, students' posts of answers to the activities, I can see that some of you have got access to some of my previous feedback that I've provided on those activities in previous semesters. I do use the same activities for the FI concession process every semester. I change them a little bit as I see students, what students need extra assistance with, and I adapt the feedback to reflect anything new that I'm seeing in student responses. But the thing is that what I want you guys to understand from the activities is that they're not there so that we can evaluate whether you've written down the right answer or not. The purpose of the activities is to give you a mark for participation. So if you have completed the activities, it doesn't matter whether you answered the activities correctly or incorrectly. What matters is that you have participated and attempted all of the activities. And that is what will give you 10% bonus mark on your FI concession portfolio. but you're going to have to provide evidence. So with your portfolio, you will give us the activities that you did on My UNISA as proof that you participated in those activities, and that will give you a 10% bonus on your portfolio mark. Um, so, so basically, what I want to tell you is that I would rather have students participate and try and give their own answers to the activities, even if your answers are wrong, rather than giving me my own feedback from last semester. The point of this whole exercise is to get you guys to engage and read and think about these issues so that you can learn from the activities and you can actually, you know how to answer these questions by the time that we release the portfolio next week. So the point of this exercise is to get you guys to practice writing your own answers and coming up with your own interpretations of texts. So something that's also quite strange about English literature, I think you will have come across this idea by now, but English literature is quite different to a lot of other subjects in that there isn't one correct answer and only that answer that we're looking for. This is always open to interpretation. How we evaluate whether students understand a text and whether they have done a good job on answering a question is we look at, has the student read the text carefully? Can the student provide evidence to support an argument? And is there a logical paragraph or essay, if we're dealing with an essay, that we're looking at? So, you might have quite a different interpretation to your friend, and both of you could pass and even get a really good mark if you were able to substantiate. So substantiate means support your argument with evidence from the text. And that's where you need to quote to support your arguments and explain how your quotes support your arguments. So that's what we've been talking about a lot in the last week's activities. We've been talking about the ingredients that you need to answer a question. The first one is that you have to highlight your keywords, right? So that's another important aspect, is that it doesn't matter how wonderful the information is that you are providing. If it is not answering the question, then you cannot get any marks for it. So it is very important that you guys read your questions very carefully and provide only information that is directly relevant to the question, and that you answer all aspects of the question. I see a lot of the time students will answer like the first part of the question and just forget about the second part. For example, if I ask you to compare Helen's view of Marius to Elsa's view of Marius, then you need to give me both characters' views. Some people just see the first name and talk about only that character and forget about the other half of the question. But that actually means that you've only answered half of the question and can only get half of the marks. So that's the first thing. Keywords are really important. That is what you stick to whenever you get asked a question. So in the portfolio exam, which I'm going to release next week, Wednesday, you're going to have 3 sections. There will be a section on the road to Mecca, which will have similar questions to the questions that we've been doing in the activities. So the activities are, you can see them as practice for exactly the same kinds of questions you'll be getting in the portfolio exam. So those activities Those questions will be paragraph form questions. We're not actually going to ask you to write a full essay in the portfolio, but we do need you to be able to structure paragraphs correctly. And we do need you to look at those keywords in the questions and keep your focus on those keywords. Then the next point that I highlighted regarding writing an answer to a question was what was it now? Let me remember. We look at our feedback that I gave you on activity 1. There's the question. And the activity 1B gave you an explanation of how to write a paragraph and how to answer a question. So we had keywords. Then the next point was topic sentences, right? So this is one way in which you can help keep your answers focused on the question. You write your first sentence and you make sure that that first sentence captures the main thing that you have been asked to do in that specific question. And then remember that all of the other sentences in that paragraph need to link to that sentence so that you have a coherent paragraph. That's how you write a coherent paragraph. So all of these sentences link to that one topic sentence. And if you have a good topic sentence that links to the keywords in the question, then it will be more difficult for you to accidentally go off track and talk about something that is not relevant to the question. So that's the topic sentence. And then we also spoke about the argument. Now, this is where it gets a bit tricky. So when you write for English literature, a good thing to kind of think about is like, it's almost like you're a lawyer and you have to defend a certain point in court. So you can make any kind of interpretation, but you need to be able to defend it. And how do you defend it? You go and find evidence from the text that you're working with. So in this case, Road to Mecca. So you go and look for an extract that supports what you're saying, a quote, or you explain in your own words a specific event in the text that supports your argument. And then you need to explain to your reader why you think that that event or that quote supports your argument. So it's not good enough to just say, I think Helen does not like to go to church, full stop, end of the discussion. You need to support something like that. You have to say, for example, we can see when she speaks to Marius about the church at the end of the play, she says that she stopped going to church, but she had lost her faith many years before that, and that she had only been, going to church because her husband expected that of her, and she thought that that was her wifely duty. Remember, we're talking about a conservative Afrikaner community here. So you see, it's not incorrect if you say Helen Martins does not like going to church, but you need that evidence to back you up. And you need to give a logical explanation of why the one thing links to the other thing, right? So why the point that you're making and the quote that you've provided, how that quote supports the point that you've made. Right, so that's argument. And that's, I think, where we're really trying to work a lot so that you guys, feel like you are confident by the time that you get to the portfolio exam next week. Okay, so I want you guys to keep that in mind. And that's also why I don't want you to copy my answers from past feedbacks when you do the activities on My UNISA. Because this is the time and the place to learn to do this. And you're not going to be able to copy answers in your portfolio exam. So yeah, so might as well practice now to get it right. And I want to warn you guys also about copying. I'm sure you've all heard the scare word plagiarism. It gets said a lot in this module. And I want you to make sure that you really understand what plagiarism means. So the most obvious example of plagiarism is purely, copy and pasting, like word for word exactly something that you found on a website, or your friend's work that you didn't write yourself, or my previous feedback on an activity. All of that is an example of plagiarism when it's word for word copy, right? So that's the first level of plagiarism. And if we find that in your portfolio, then it's an absolute fail. You get 0. So please, guys, don't do that. That is the biggest reason why students fail this portfolio, is if they plagiarize and don't try to write their own answers. So please don't do that, because we do pick it up. And yeah, in this portfolio, plagiarism is a 0. The thing is, even for the activities, the My UNISA activities, if you just kind of hand in as your activities exactly the same answers that I have provided in the feedback, then you will get 0 for that section. So that section counts for 10% and you will get 0 for that. So that's also why you need to write these things in your own words, grapple with it. Doesn't matter if you make mistakes in the My UNISA activities, you will get your participation mark as long as you try and answer those activities. Okay, so that's 10% of the portfolio. So the 45% of the portfolio will be questions on Road to Mecca. It will be 3 or 4 paragraph type questions on Road to Mecca. And then section B, your second section, will be on a poem. And I am going to give you a poem from what's your textbook? Seasons Come to Pass, the poetry anthology. I'm going to set a poem from there for the poetry question, but it is not going to be one of the poems that is on the list of, I think, 30 poems that you usually need to study. The reason for that is that there's so much material on the internet on those poems that it's very tempting for students to just copy from there instead of thinking for yourself and trying to answer. And because I know that is why the biggest reason why students fail is copying from the internet. I rather want you to work with a poem that there's not a lot of material on the internet, so that you can read that poem carefully and come up with your own answers and your own evidence that you find in the poem to support whatever argument you are going to make. Yeah, so I know it seems harsh, but it's really actually for your benefit that we're doing this, because I really find that most students who really try in this portfolio do actually manage to succeed. So that's the section B, is the poetry section. We will start with activities on poetry next week. So we are still doing Road to Mecca until Friday, and then over the weekend and up till Wednesday, you'll have time to work on poetry activities, and then I'll release the portfolio on Wednesday. You guys have to submit your portfolio on My UNISA. You'll see there's a tab that's called e-assessment. There where you go to click on discussions, if you go, in that same column, there's e-assessment, and you'll have to click there to get the portfolio with the questions, and then you'll also upload your document onto my UNISA using e-assessment. Similar to your normal assignment portal on my UNISA, but it's not exactly the same thing. But I will send you guys step-by-step instructions on how to upload that portfolio. And remember, that portfolio then will be one document that contains 3 sections. Section A, which will be your questions on Road to Mecca. Section B will be your questions on, or your answers on the poem. And then section C will be the section where you provide your activities that you posted on my UNISA as well. And that's why I've been reminding you guys to save those activities in Microsoft Word before you post them onto my UNISA, so that you don't have to go back and find your answers on my UNISA and copy and paste after the fact. So if you haven't done so yet, remember to keep a record of those activities in a Word document. If you haven't done it up to this point, you can copy and paste from my UNISA. That's not the end of the world. It's just for your own convenience, that I'm advising you to save your answers in Word and then copy them onto my UNISA. Okay, so that's, I hope you have a good sense now of what I'm trying to do with the activities on my UNISA. I really do hope that you guys are reading the feedbacks that I post after each activity. It's very important that you read that before you tackle the next activity, because there's a lot of information there on, do's and don'ts. And I also look at what you guys do and adapt feedback a little to reflect anything new that I've seen in the discussion threads. So please, that's the correct procedure. And if you haven't done it so far, I actually recommend you go back to activity 1, start there, and read through that feedback, then attempt the next activity and carry on. You can post your activities on my UNISA again if you want to. If you're not happy with your first attempts, just don't, provide my own answers to me, because that defeats the point. And if you have been copying answers from old feedback, then I really recommend that you guys go back and redo those activities using your own answers, coming up with your own answers, so that you can get the full 10% for that section of the portfolio. All right, guys. Are there any questions? I see it's very quiet on the live chat. You can also post questions on my UNISA afterwards if you have any. I'm going to make this available as a video, so you can use the same link, but it will be a video that you can watch afterwards, and then ask any questions on my UNISA that you might have. Looks like we haven't got any questions, so I'm going to say good luck with the second week of FI concession activities. All the best, and good luck with this portfolio. I really hope that you guys are going to all succeed in this FI concession. All right, guys. Bye-bye.